And welcome to the very first Battle Spirit Saga event in Australia. You're joined by myself, Tyson, and Max Kennedy. How are you doing, Max?
Yeah, doing pretty good today. We have a room filled with nearly 128 players excited to start this journey of Battle Spirit Saga. So really keen to see what decks people have brought to the table today and how it ends up going.
Lovely. It sounds absolutely amazing. I'm very keen to see what people are doing with their decks and their strategies because from what I've seen, you can do quite a lot.
Definitely, definitely. And it looks like we're getting ready to have round one started. So we should get you guys there shortly.
Beautiful. And here we are. We've got our two competitors playing. They're just deciding who goes first, I believe. There we go. We have Stephen and Matthew. Funnily enough, two players that I know personally. Lovely people.
So for those who haven't played Battle Spirits before, a couple of quick things I will walk you through. So if you see right, I guess, opposite the opponent's decks, you have some blue cores. These are your life. So at the start of the game, you will have five cores, which are life. When you are dealt damage, those cores will go down to your resource area, which is in each player's bottom left corner. At the start of each turn, you'll get a new resource or a new core from your void, which is the bowls that the players have next to them. And you have one red core, which is your soul core, which lets you do some special effects on different cards.
Yeah, and I find that with this game, its energy resource it's quite brilliant, actually. I've played many different Bandai card games, and nothing I've come across has been anything like this. Constantly being able to generate resources from outside of the field, and your life also being a resource, I find is quite an interesting way to start things.
Yeah, definitely. And looking here, we are going for the mulligans. The way the mulligans work in Battle Spirit Saga is both players draw 4 cards, and then I believe they are deciding whether or not to mulligan. If you do mulligan, you shuffle your hand back into your deck and draw a new 4. If you don't mulligan, you get to draw an extra card.
It does look like both players have chosen not to mulligan, though. All right, and it appears that we've got player on the right is going first. He's playing red by the looks of it.
Yep. If I'm right, that is a Rain Needle, which is essentially just a skillless card. So when you pay for a card, you must pay the amount of resources, which we have done. So we've put 1 blue resource in the trash, but then each spirit card must have at least 1 core on it to stay alive. All right, and then we see Steven play one of his own cards on player on the left here, and he is thinking whether to do anything else before he passes. However, we will see an attack. So the other thing, which is different from other Bandai games, is you can attack on the first turn you play a card. So there's no summoning sickness. So different from One Piece, different from Digimon, which is really exciting to see here. So it can be a lot more aggressive.
And what I like about the mechanics as well is you can go really hard, really early, but it also leaves you open to attacks that could end you very fast. Essentially, your cards up are always a blocker, and if you leave yourself without a blocker or any resources to be able to defend, your game could be over just like that.
So I believe that is Burst Draw, which he has to pay 3 for because he does have one crystal, I believe it's called, which allows him to reduce the cost by 1. So for each of your spirits on field, and nexuses, they can reduce the cost of your other cards. I won't go into it too much because it can get a bit confusing. However, we do just see the Burst Draw, which was a draw 2, and a second Rain Needle, which is another skillless card.
Now, because the Rain Needle is already on the field, Rain Needle itself costs 1 less, so he was able to play that for free and just put a core on it to play it out.
Yep. And we did see it before he entered his attack step, he did place a Burst card face down, which is a card which, when a certain condition is met, you are able to use its effect for free, essentially.
Okay. So looking to go the aggressive route here, taking 2 life from his opponent on his second turn, which can be good, can be bad. It really just depends on how Matthew's hand is and how he's going to play his turn now.
Yeah, definitely. As we see here, Matthew has a lot of these cores ready to make some pretty cool plays. However, Steven is playing a red deck, which is very aggressive, and I believe that is a yellow penguin we see down. So if Matthew is playing this yellow deck, you'll see a lot of these 2-cost cards come down, which have different effects. So that looks like one of the penguins, which lets him look at the top card of his deck, I believe.
The card did go into the discard area though, so I'm not too sure.
Yeah, so that was Prince Penton. He gets to reveal the top card of his deck. If it costs 2, he gets to add it in hand. If not, it gets discarded. So he did discard, unfortunately, one of his big boss monsters, which is the 8-cost Behemoth, the God Beast Behemoth, which lets him restand all his level 2s when he attacks.
That's quite an amazing card.
It most definitely is.
So we're seeing Matthew looking like he's going to start swinging here. Just going to see what he's going to do with the rest of his cards. Will he keep them up? Will he not attack with them?
Yeah, Steven can't do too much here, as he has no spirits in active, so he's not able to block.
Okay, Steven on 2 life now with one card up by the looks of it, I believe. And yeah, going into turn 3, turn 4, which is going to be sort of the deciding point of the game here, I think.
Yeah, Steven can have a very aggressive turn with red being red. Matthew only has 1 blocker available and no cores, no resources to be able to pay for anything. So we could see a very explosive turn from Steven, threatening Matthew's life.
Could do.
All right, so there we see one of the red starter deck dragons come down for Steven.
So we'll get that card up and see what that one does for us.
That is the Nebula Dragon Andromeda. I am butchering names, as I always do. However, when it summons, it selects one of its opponent's spirits with 3,000 or fewer DP, or one of their nexuses, and destroys them. And we do see a total of 3 cores on it, which will put it up to level 2. Now, different spirits need a different amount of cores on them to level up. Nebula Dragon needs 3 cores to be able to get to level 2, which means it has 6,000 battle points, which is quite high, especially in the game that we currently have.
So it looks like we've got roughly 100 players here today, which is quite a decent event for what we've got, especially on such short notice. Getting so many players out and keen to just get in and participate for that potential $10,000 that we can win today. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely a different style of event that we've seen before, as this is essentially the pre-release for the game. This is the first time you've been able to get your hands on any cards besides from the promotional packs sent out to your LGSs. So it's really cool to see all these players kind of come together for this brand new game.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, being the sort of pre-release it is, each player was given the opportunity to purchase 2 of each starter deck and up to 8 booster boxes to build their decks. And I believe they were able to pick them up on the Friday, so yesterday, which gave them just enough time to be able to build some decks. And here we see Matthew pull down one of his other cards. Can't quite see what that is. Max, do you know what that is?
So the first card he pulled down, I believe that is the Freestall, which is another yellow spirit, which gets to draw a card when a spirit with a cost of 2 is destroyed. However, I can't see what that other one is. I'm assuming it's the same dragon that we saw earlier on. However, this one seems to be the non-alt art version.
Okay. And now with Stephen having only 2 life here and no blockers up, Matthew is in a good position to be able to take this game 1 out pretty fast.
Yep. However, we haven't seen one of the best cards in the game at the moment, which is Absolute Ice Shield. It is a burst effect, which we don't see him pull out here. Oh, no, there it is. That's Absolute Ice Shield. So essentially what you get to do is you add 1 core from your reserve back into the void. That I don't think that's how that one works. One of the play.
Okay, yeah, he doesn't seem to be resolving the life. He should be getting that life back, right? So I think we're going to get a judge over there just to be able to review that one, just because that does appear to have mistakenly happened.
Yeah, so just on our point of view, that is the Heaven Blade Dragon Ritu, which says during either player's main step. However, we are in the attack step. So from my point of view, that should be going into back into the player's life instead, which, because for those who don't know, Absolute Ice Shield says you get to add it from your reserve back into your life. However, we added it to the Heaven Blade Dragon, but it is we were in the attack phase, not the main step.
Lucky we picked that up. We don't want to have one of the players lose just from an unfortunate misplay.
Okay, I must have been mistaken on this one, but it's always good to know. This is the first event of the tournament, so it is a good one to double check.
So it does appear that the attack step has ended, though, as that's what Absolute Ice Shield does do. So Matthew won't be able to attack any longer, and then we'll see Stephen's next turn quite shortly.
Yeah, it looks like we are... Are we on Matthew's turn or are we on Stephen's turn?
Matthew did just attack, but it does end the attack step, so I believe it will just be moving to Stephen's turn. I'm not too sure. He may be just thinking about what plays he wants to make.
He does have a very big hand, and he is playing red, which is one of the decks that gets to draw the most cards. One of the cards that we can see in his hand says Burst Effect. When your opponent plays a on-summon effect, you get to draw 2 cards. And then you can activate his main effect, which says draw 2 cards. So we'll be able to draw 4 cards if he does get to successfully activate that.
Going +3 is always great in the game.
Most definitely. And we do see a red spirit come down. Once again, I believe that is one of the starter deck spirits that we see there. That is the Blade Dino Parasaur. It has Confront. Now, Confront is an interesting keyword. It essentially means that your opponent must block the attack if they are able to. So you can essentially get rid of one of your opponent's spirits if you have enough cores on it. It also has a secondary effect if it's a level 2, which it is because it has its 3 cores on it, that when you attack, you can pay this Spirit Soul Core, so you can put the Soul Core, which is the red one, into the trash to draw a card.
Okay, not a bad effect.
Which is essentially what we get to see here. We do just get to see the draw from the Blade Dino.
Something I'm sort of curious about. I believe with the Absolute Ice Shield, when you're at 1 life, I don't think that actually does much for you, does it? Because you just sort of die and...
Yeah, from my understanding, losing the game is an interruptive effect, so you would not resolve Absolute Ice Shield. But it is definitely an interesting one that we may see come up very shortly. But as you can see, this game has progressed relatively quickly. We're only 13 minutes into the round, but both players on extremely low life. And that's what you're going to see here when you see 2 of the aggro colors, which I would say yellow and red are considered the aggro colors that we have, just playing into each other.
Considering the amount of little guys that the yellow player can play, and red just bringing out the constant big beat sticks for very, very cheap, they definitely are, in my perspective, the most aggro decks for format. And you'll see quick games across the board with both of these decks if they come up.
Yeah, definitely. And we do have 2 yellow spirits on the field at the moment. which means if we were to play another yellow spirit, it could potentially have its cost reduced by 2 depending on the card. However, this one is just going to have its cost reduced by 1. And that is one of the 2 cost cards that we do see played in yellow quite a bit. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, but it's something that starts with C. Calidurus.
Yeah, Caladrius, I think
Yep.
it is.
It has Luster, which is another one of yellow's keywords, which essentially says during the attack step, any magic cards that are to be used, which are one of the 3 types of cards that we can play in Battle Spirit Saga, will all be returned to hand at the end of this attack step.
That's quite a strong effect, to be quite honest, being able to play your magic cards and then gain them back. It's sort of a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah, red gets to draw the cards, but yellow just gets to keep them in hand. Yeah, there is the Caladrius on screen for you guys.
Now, we do have the yellow play with 3 cards up and potential game on board right now, considering Stephen only does have the 1 blocker. And out comes another spirit from Matthew. This could decide the game, to be quite honest.
Yeah, that is the Behemoth. So that is God Beast Behemoth is one that we saw him discard earlier in the game. And it has a couple of cool conditions. So one of them is when summoning this spirit from your hand, you can count the spirits in your trash as well as on the field for its cost reduction. Additionally, if it's a level 2, which it needs 2 cores on it to be, but it looks like we only have 1 core, it would be able to restand. Your spirits that cost 2 can't be blocked, and yeah, no, just your spirits that cost 2 can't be blocked, which is when it's when attacking effect. However, it doesn't look like we have the two blue cores on it.
Okay, it looks like Stephen coming out with an absolute ice shield and doing its effect. Max, I'm not too sure what that does. Could you explain that for us?
I believe the effect on Absolute Ice Shield, so when you're the flash effect when you're paying from hand, just says end the attack step.
Okay.
I will have a look for us all today. Yeah, the flash effect is just when this battle ends, you get to end the attack step. So it looks like we are going to see a block into just a end the turn, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's Absolute Ice Shield on the screen for those who have not seen it before. It is most definitely one of the strongest cards we have in this first set of Battle Spirit Saga.
And that just goes to show as well that even when you think that your game is lost, just anything can happen. Yeah, you've just stopped this person's whole turn, and he may be able to pull it back on his next turn.
And we do see him just paying all the cores off of his other spirit, which will essentially sacrifice it. But that's just so we have enough cores on our Nebula Dragon for it to survive. However, it looks like we have a flash effect which will give it power, and Nebula Dragon Andromeda is just going to die.
Okay, now it looks like we've got the red players, Stephen's next turn going into play. It's going to be quite an interesting turn, considering he's got a lot of high-cost cards in his hand, and there's not going to be able to play a whole lot, I don't think. We may just see the end of this game 1 here.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be quite interesting what we do see, because even though Matthew only has 2 life left, Stephen doesn't have a board, and it doesn't look like he has many low-costing cards in his hand to be able to play the game out.
That's right. He does appear to have 3 of the exact same card. I'm not too sure exactly what that one is. Could potentially be one of the 4 costs, but I'm not going to say that I know what it is.
Yep, it looks like he's just counting out his cores now and see what to do. And this is going to be one of the drawing cards I mentioned earlier, which just when you use it in your main phase, you just got to draw 2 cards.
And he's drawn another one.
He drew another one, and he drew Nexus, which we haven't seen any Nexuses be played down this turn, but normally Nexuses have quite strong effects. I believe the one in his hand has an effect along the lines of during your turn, all of your spirits gain a 1k BP.
Are we going to see Stephen try and play another one of those draw cards, and just to try and get some more cards in hand?
It's definitely going to be a rough position for Stephen, and we look like we're just going to be picking up all our cores and all our spirits, and we're going to go into game 2.
Yeah, I'd say Stephen just can understand there that there's nothing he can really do to get out of that. It does look like he had a bit of an unfortunate hand with all of those high cost cards, but yeah, we'll see next game how that plays out.
Definitely, as you see here, we've got both players resetting their board state, so they have their 5 life and then their 3 cores and their 1 soul core.
It's such an interesting game 1, being able to see red and yellow duke it out. I've been yet to see that, actually, and it's quite an enjoyable experience just how fast it can play.
Yeah, definitely. That game was over in 20 minutes, which if you're going to finish a best of 3, that may be how fast you have to play it.
100%.
But we did see Matthew get a bunch of his 2 costs out, which is his game plan. However, Steven didn't get the big red 8 costs out, which is the Supernova, which hopefully we will see later on in this game.
I hope so, and I would like to see someone play that Saga Rare if they do, because that card is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen.
Yes, it is very beautiful. Just quickly, a couple of how Ren plays. So some of Red's keywords that you will see when playing the game. You will see Confront, which says, while the spirit attacks, if your opponent can block, they must block the attack. Secondly, you have Awaken, which is a flash effect, which says you may remove any number of cords from your other spirit and place them onto this spirit. However, when destroyed effects will not trigger if you do destroy a spirit with this effect.
And that Awaken effect is pretty much when you're in that battle phase, am I correct?
Yes, it is a flash effect, which there are 2 flash windows. There is one when an attack is declared, and there is another one after a block is declared, if there is a block.
Okay. So just so we can get it out for the players, with flash effects, if you don't block, will you still get a second flash effect?
I do not believe so, but that is a question that we may have to leave up for our judges, which we'll try to get for you for next round.
All right, we see them just going into cutting each other's decks and deciding who goes first or second. I believe you decide who goes first or second after you finish game 1.
Yeah, normally it's a losing player, so I'm assuming it will be a similar sort of deal here. The main difference between going first and second is the player who going first cannot attack on their first turn, as we saw last game. Additionally, the player going first does not get an extra core. So the player going second will be able to attack and will be able to get an extra core.
Something I do love about this game, though, is how equal footing you are on, whether going first or second. You're not going to draw extra cards. You both, if you do decide not to mulligan, you will draw that 5th card and then you'll draw one for turn. Whereas in most games, you'll just draw your hand and you won't draw an additional card for your turn, and that'll be that.
Yeah. It looks like here for Battle Spirit, which is something I was unsure of, there is a particular order for who decides whether they mulligan first or second, which is very interesting. But as we see, the mulligan is also a little bit different. Instead of shuffling your hand back into your deck, you will simply just place it to the side and then draw 4 new cards and then shuffle after.
Which I quite like. I believe bottom decking the previous hand and drawing more cards is, in my opinion, one of the better ways to do things. It saves you shuffling your deck and drawing the exact same cards that you did have.
Most definitely. So we do see the same spirit we saw last game, which is the yellow 2-cost. I'm not going to pretend I can remember how to pronounce the name, but I will pull it up. It is the Calidris, which has the luster keyword that we're talking about. So any magic cards that are used during this card's battle will be able to be returned to hand.
And again, such a brilliant effect. I'm really, really loving the way yellow plays. Same with red, but just yellow itself looks like a very interesting color.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Steven's mulling over what to do now. We did see the same card he had last turn, which was the Starbirth draw, which allows him to draw 2 cards. However, I think he's considering whether to use it as a burst card, but we will see what he decides to do very shortly.
And the Rain Needle to begin his turn as well, just the exact same as he did last game. It seems to be quite the common play in red, to be honest.
Yep, and we will see that Starbirth draw where he gets to draw 2, and that's going to cost him those 3 cores that he has in his resource area down the bottom there.
Yep. And, I don't believe yellow has too many on-play effects, do they?
No, not from my memory. So using the Starbirth draw as a burst won't happen too often. So we do see some smart thinking by Steven here. And we will see the Rain Needle attack. I think it has the same amount of power as that Calidris. So it was kind of do we swap 1 for 1 here, or do we just take the life? And it seems Matthew is just willing to take the life.
I think Matthew is just more valuing the luster effect on the Caladrius, considering he gains them back during the attack step.
Yeah, it's definitely a super strong effect, and we do see 2 absolute ice shields in Matthew's hand, so that's essentially 2 turns he gets to survive. But Matthew, very similar to the last game, plays down another 2-cost yellow card. This is the Prince Pentan, where he gets to look at the top card of his deck and discard. And if it's a 2-cost, he gets to add it to hand. If it's not, he has to discard it.
And again, we do see him have to discard that card. It wasn't a 2-cost, but yeah, if you sort of come to the deck building there, if you don't have too many 2-costs, then you're probably never going to hit that Pentan effect.
Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting one. We haven't seen him hit it yet. However, you do get effects from discard in yellow, so it's not the worst thing just to be able to discard a card for the sake of discarding a card.
Exactly. It thins your deck.
Yep. And we do see Drowsy Fumes, which is a magic card, and it looks like we're in the attack for our Caladrius, which means we'll be able to add that Drowsy Fumes back to hand, but it just reduces one of your opponent's Spirit's DP by 2,000. So we did just essentially destroy the Rain Needle.
Okay, so that's something I wasn't actually aware of. So when a Spirit's DP is reduced to 0, it just dies, is that correct?
I believe so, and that's what it looks like we have here in this game. Or maybe we saw a block, which would have done a similar thing.
He did attack with the Rain Needle last turn, though, so it definitely wasn't a block. It
yeah,
must be that...
It would have been the Drowsy Fumes. And we don't see that Drowsy Fumes coming back to hand here.
Is it a level 2 effect, the luster?
Oh, it very much could be. That is a good... You are correct, Tyson. It is a level 2 effect. So he did have to have 3 cores on that Caladrius if he wanted to be able to return that Drowsy Fumes to hand.
It's definitely something you need to be wary of when you're playing that sort of card, because you never know. You might not realize you need that magic card back in your hand, and you just discarded it and not been able to get it back.
Yeah, definitely. And we do just see another Rain Needle come down for Steven. It seems to be his bread and butter play here, but it hasn't been able to do too much for him. His hand is pretty slow with only 4 cards. So it looks like for the cost of 2, we're bringing out another red Spirit here.
Looks like it has a level 2 effect. Don't know what that effect is, but Max, you'll bring that up.
I will indeed bring that up. Yeah, once I can find what it is. I believe that is this Fierce Gora Horn Grizzly. That's a pretty cool looking card. It does have on level 2 and level 3 Confront, which means if it is a level 2 or level 3, which it looks like we'll put 3 cores on it, so it's a level 3 at the moment. If your opponent can block, they must block.
And being a level 3, it is 6,000 BP as well.
That is 5,000 DP.
5,000? I was wrong.
Yeah, the level 3 will give it 5,000, but because he only has 3 cores, it's level 2. Can be slightly confusing. So he will have the Confront for being level 2, and he will have 5,000 DP. Yeah, there we go. That is the card there on screen.
And the red cards, they just look so menacing. It's amazing what they've done with these card design, and they look absolutely brilliant.
And we do go back over to Matthew's turn here. And he has a total of 6 cores ready to play down this turn if he needs to. We will see the Burst card come down.
Not a whole lot of cards in Steven's hand. Looks like 3 cards, so not much to defend. But he does, I believe, have that Absolute Ice Shield in his Burst, so he should be right to be able to move things forward.
Exactly. And we do see Matthew bring down another Spirit here. And he only paid, what was it? He paid 2 for it because it has that 1 cost reduction symbol on it. And I will try and pull up that card now. Can be somewhat difficult sometimes with these small cards on the screen. That looks like the Rapier Nightcat Sith, which has a on-summon effect for all 3 levels. Which is you get to reveal the top 2 cards from your deck, add all that cost 2 to your hand, and add the discard the remaining, which is what we saw there.
Not bad.
As a level, I believe that's a level 2, because it has 2 cores on it. It will be a 3,000 DP attacker.
Now going back into the summoning effects, that's one of really the only on-summon effects Yellow has. So, Steven could have had one of the Star Blessed draws out, but Is it really worth it in your burst?
Yeah, it's kind of a risky one because
Just got an announcement here. Sorry, we'll be back in a sec. And we're done with the announcement. So yeah, he could have had the Starblast draw in his burst, but it could just not be worth it at this stage because you just don't know.
yeah, it's definitely a card that his hand was looking a bit slow, so he definitely wanted to draw, and he didn't want to have to rely on his opponent to be able to draw some cards. So it's definitely a strategic move on Steven's behalf. We do see that Caladrius attack here with the Illustra effect because it is a level 2 at the moment because there is 3 cores. So it is, I believe, a 3,000. Yes, that is correct. It is a 3,000 attacker. And we are going to see some magic cards come down. So that looks like an angelic pressure where you select one of your opponent's spirits, reduces BP by 3,000.
Potentially killing that Rain Needle again. The exact same thing that happened last turn as well, actually.
Yep, however, this time we will be able to return that card back to our hand.
I believe we're going to see Steven try and retaliate with his own sort of flash effect here.
Yep. So flash of effects, the way they work is essentially it's a pass system. So the defending player has the first chance to use a flash, and then the offensive player gets a chance to use a flash, and then because the offensive player used one, then we have the defending player is allowed to use one as well. And it looks like we are going to see one of Red's super strong magic cards, which I will pull up here for it in a sec. So that is Big Bang Energy, which has a main flash effect to select one spirit and give it 2,000 BP for the turn. So he did sacrifice a Rain Needle, and I believe to give his Big Grizzly Bear another power boost. And we did see a Drowsy Fumes come down, which it will reduce by another 2,000.
And it definitely was the sort of right play there. Your Rain Needle was going to die, so being able to kill the Rain Needle yourself to give your character a 2,000 BP, probably the right play there.
Yes, definitely. And we did see both of them end up dying. Matthew did have to sacrifice one of his own spirits to have enough cores to pay the cost for his magic cards.
But we do see there that Steven's board is completely empty with only 3 cards in hand, and it doesn't look like he's able to do a whole lot here. It's going to be a rough turn going forward.
Yeah, Matthew's definitely playing that denial game at the moment, which is one I believe we're going to see quite a lot of today, especially a little bit of a spoiler as we see white and purple decks come on through, as they do definitely like to try and deny their opponent as many resources as they can.
Going into the next turn, they've obviously both got 3 life. Steven, if he's not able to get a couple of blockers up on the field, it's potential for Matthew to just have game.
Yeah. And we did see Steven here just play Blazing Board, which has an on-summon effect allowing to add a red spirit from trash to hand, which I believe he added his Grizzly Bear back to hand and has just played it down again.
Beautiful. Just getting a couple of blockers out. He does also have that Absolute Ice Shield, I believe, in Burst. And I'm sure Matthew also has the same card. So we're not going to see game for a couple of turns just yet. But, yeah, we'll have an interesting game going.
It looks like both players are just thinking through their next moves extremely carefully. We do see Steven add his Soul Core to his Blazing Ball, which will make it a level 2, so it has 3,000 power.
With only 27 minutes left in the round, we can see a couple of people have already gotten up from their tables and have finished their games. So, you know, people are playing relatively fast, which is always great to see.
Yes, definitely. It's pretty crazy to see, especially with these being 2 of the faster decks, and we are still we've passed halfway through the round. And we're only halfway through game 2 here. So it just shows the amount of patience and skill this game can take, as well as how quickly you can push games in some situations.
100%.
So we will see a attack here from the Grizzly Bear, which has 3 cores on it. So I believe that makes the Grizzly Bear a level 2. Yep.
Matthew has used that magic card again to reduce the BP, so he is blocking as well. Yep, and the card will die.
Yep, looks like we have passed it over to Matthew's turn. Steven over here is sitting on a comfortable 3 life while his opponent only has 1 spirit on the field. However, that spirit is the one with Luster. So you can see that Luster effect kind of being able to keep Matthew's hand relatively full while Steven's sitting there with a small hand. And we do see this spirit come down again, which is one where you get a look at the top 2 cards of your deck and you get to add any level 2s to hand. However, we did just see the 2 Fabled Dragons, which were cards that put a lot of effort into getting that game 1 win. They were the Heaven Blade Dragons that just got discarded. You got 1 Altar and 1 normal one, and we think saw the players have a little bit of a chuckle over that.
Yeah, definitely a shame seeing both of them go. But even though they have gone, you can see Matthew still has a lot of gas in his hand, and he's going to just rebuild his board.
Yep, Matthew going wide with his board, which is one of the things that Yellow can do quite easily with the amount of low-cost cards you're able to run in your deck and still get value out of these low-cost cards. And it looks like we are just going to start swinging because Matthew has 3 spirits on the field. If Steven doesn't have an Absolute Ice in his burst, he may not be able to do too much. And he just graciously took that one, so we'll see what happens with our next couple of attacks.
We may see an Absolute Ice Shield here in the next one. He may have just been trying to bait him to swing one more time so he can play a couple of cards and just go hard on.
Exactly. We will see the Rapier Knight Cat Sith attack, and we will be taking it, and it looks like we're going to go for the... Yeah, we will go for the Absolute Ice Shield, turning one back. And is he going to pay the 4? Because if he pays the 4, he will have to essentially let his Grizzly Bear die, which is probably why we saw him take that first life, because he needed that 1 extra core to be able to pay the cost for the card.
It's such a rough one as well, because he's either left with 2 life and he can just end it, or he's going to be left with 1 at the end of this. Yeah, he needs that card on field.
And this is quite interesting, because while Matthew has only 1 attack left, there is a chance for him to pull out a Royal Potion, which I don't see in his hand, but I'm not 100% sure which cards are left in his hand. Which Royal Potion, for those who don't know, says you get to refresh all spirits that cost 2, but we do just see the pass.
Such a great card as well, and it looks like he's got 2 cards that cost 2 on the field anyway. I believe that they're actually 2 of them are level 3s, so maybe not.
I think we only have 1 that costs 2, which is the Caladrius. I believe the other 2 do cost 3. The Rapier Cat Knight definitely costs 3. And I believe the other one is a Eravath, which has a when destroyed effect. You get to select a spirit card that costs 2 from your trash and summon it. So it definitely helps with the going wide strategy.
You can see Steven really thinking here. It's a really rough game for him. He does have another burst card down and enough of his cores to actually stay alive next turn and end the attack step.
Definitely.
So I think that's what his plan is. He's just going to bump up his Grizzly by a lot of power and just try and survive within the next turn. He does have another one in hand as well. So he potentially has 2 more turns just to save himself.
Yeah, definitely. We did see him put the Absolute Ice Shield in there, so we 100% knows that is his burst card. And it looks like we are just going to block with a Caladrius.
All right, so we have seen the Caladrius die here. He did block. He could have taken the life, but his life seems more valuable to him right now as he can, as you can see, Red can just build up those boards pretty easily once he gets going.
And we do see in his hand, Matthew does have an Absolute Ice Shield of his own. So I'm assuming that other burst card is another Absolute Ice Shield. So that's at least 2 turns they can survive purely by just sitting there with your cores and just leaving 4 open for Absolute Ice Shields.
Quite incredible just how many Absolute Ice Shields we've seen over the last 2 games.
As I did say, it is one of the best cards. And it puts this game in a rather precarious spot where, as Steven stalling with Absolute Ice Shields, he may be able to draw into his card, which allows him to essentially take the game. We do just see the Absolute Ice Shield come down, so we will be putting 1 back into our life.
Yeah, when he's going to do that. There we go, it's going now, yep.
Yeah, so we've got the 1 back in the life. We'll pay the cost, so that does end the attack step, and it is back over to Steven's turn, where I'm assuming he's going to do a very similar thing, just trying to draw his outs to win this game, because Red does have a super nasty combo, and I think he has one of the pieces in his hand, which is the Super Nova Dragon Sengwan Nova, which allows it's a very long name, but if you do have a Sengworm with a cost of 6 on field, you are able to gain life back up to 5. So if we do see that at some point in this game, it would be pretty crazy.
And we do see Matthew also has another absolute ice shield in hand. We can only assume the other one, the burst, is an absolute ice shield. I don't believe we saw what he put down there, but you can only assume it's an absolute ice shield. So Matthew's also going to give himself an extra 2 turns, and after that, Stephen just doesn't have any more to go. So it might decide the game, those 2 ice shields.
Definitely. And we do see our first Nexus of the game get played here. I will pull it up on my iPad to see what it's called. It is the Volcanic Canyon, which is one of the set cards. I believe you were able to get them in the demo deck. And it just says, during your draw step, draw an additional card, and then after you draw, discard one. So it does help with those cycling to find the pieces that we need. And if it has 1 core on it during your turn, during your attack step, all of your spirits get 1,000 DP.
And we do see Matthew block here, keeping himself at 3 life and giving himself an extra 2 turns with the absolute ice shield in his hand and in his burst. So we will definitely see some gameplay moving forward. Stephen also having multiple of his cores on his spirits. He will be able to take them away from that with the absolute ice shield, but yeah, it will reduce the power of it. So we could see Matthew reduce his power with some of his magic cards.
Definitely, and we see Matthew play his own Nexus. Going from game 1 not having a single Nexus come down to having 2 come down is pretty exciting. That does look like it is a Blessed Cathedral. So during either attack step, you got to place a core from the void into your reserve when one of your yellow spirits is destroyed, which is a bit of ramping, which is such a strong effect.
Very strong effect, to be quite honest. Being able to play your bigger threats for cheaper, well, not cheaper, but earlier on with that effect, it's quite amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And then if you do have 3 cores on it, you do get to draw a card when one of your yellow spirits is destroyed during either player's attack step.
Now, we do see Stephen play the Absolute Ice Shield. Typically, you wouldn't want to play it when your opponent's attack with 1 card, but considering he's only at 2 life, it's really the only play he can make at this stage.
Definitely. Yeah, we will see a couple of draws at the start of his turn with that canyon there, the Volcanic Canyon, and you do have to discard one. So we have set up for Stephen's turn. That Absolute Ice Shield will need to go to the discard when he remembers, but it's not too much of an issue there for the moment.
Maybe he's just trying to do a sneaky and not let his opponent know he's got another one there. There we go. We just had the judge come and tell him no.
Yep. We do have another card in Stephen's hands, which will let him draw. And he does have 2 red sources on the field, so he'll be able to reduce his cost by 2, so it will only cost 2. We draw another Volcanic and another Rain Needle, Stephen's favorite card.
We're just going to see Stephen try and build his board up here, and he's not going to be able to go for game, but he could build that board up to have enough blockers and be able to survive into the next couple of turns.
Yeah, definitely. Stephen can definitely present his board wide enough to be able to survive another turn. However, I'm not sure if it's going to be enough here.
I know. And again, it is what I sort of love about Battle Spirits. You don't know. You can never know who's going to win and when, because things can change just at the click of a finger.
Definitely. And as we said, Stephen is building his board up, just kind of going a little bit wider here. And we do only see, I think that's 3 cards in Matthew's hand. So it's not easy for Matthew to develop a wide board to kind of go around. And we'll see another Volcanic Canyon come down on Stephen's side of the field.
So it's sort of interesting to see, will Stephen end up going to try and do some damage here, or will he just pass? It looks like he does just pass there, keeping up his blockers so that he can survive into the next turn.
Yeah, definitely. And we do see 3 cores on that Blade Dino Parasaur and 3 cores. I'll just wait for the announcement.
It's just them announcing that they've got to leave us alone.
Yeah, and then we also have 3 cores on the Grizzly Bear. So they do have extra BP here. I believe I've got 1 BP on the Rain Needle and 5 on each of the Grizzly Bear and the Dino. And this is to Matthew's 1 BP, I believe it is, on his Spirit. which does get to summon something when it is destroyed.
It
Which
does have 3 cores on it though, so it may not be just 1 BP.
was it 3 cores? I am blind as a bat.
They do reflect with the light. Yeah, I didn't notice it until he turned the card around.
Yeah, so we will see Steven just block with the Rain Needle, so Matthew doesn't get the when destroyed effect of his spirit here, which will let him summon a spirit with a cost of 2 from the trash, which will let him get another attack through. And yes, we were correct. It doesn't have 1, it has 3. 3,000 BP, and it has 2,000 BP when it's level 1, not 1, so that is my bad.
So it looks like we're just going to obviously see that Matthew passing turn, because once you get into that attack step, once you end it, your turn's ended. So Steven's going to start his turn and try and go all wide, I believe. But as we know, Matthew does have the absolute eye shield in his burst and is ready to play that when he needs.
Most definitely. The players are just having a little bit of a discussion here. However, if Steven is able to get his full combo out at any stage, he can go back up to 5. So he gets to draw 1 and then discard 1. It'll be interesting to see what we see discarded here.
And he can do that twice with both of them, is that right?
Yeah, so he'll be able to do it 2 times from my understanding. And it looks like it's either a Rain Needle or a Grizzly Bear, 2 of his favorite cards that we've seen come down a lot. And it looks like we are just going to get rid of the Grizzly Bear, and then we got to do it again to draw 1 and discard 1. I'm not sure. That looks like a magic card that he has drawn into his hand.
Yeah, that is a magic card. That is the, I believe, the card that gives 2,000 BP, if I'm not mistaken.
It very well could be. It did look like the big Bang Energy to me, which is a very scary card because it also has a main effect where during your turn, all your Star Dragon Spirit cards in your hand have a cost equal to your life. However, Steven doesn't have enough cards in his hand to essentially make use of that fully, and he did discard it. So
Steven has opted to just play the Rain Needle here, obviously for free, but it will cost you 1 core to put on it.
yeah, definitely. And Matthew didn't attack, which means he can't be forced to block with Steven's Dino here. As you see, Steven's also rearranging his cores a little bit, so he can pay the he can use the Dino's effect to draw a card. Oh, and we do see a really good card here, which is the Charge Draw. However, you only get to draw 2 cards during your main phase, so we will not be seeing an extra 2 cards in Steven's hands, but it does have a flash effect to give one of your spirits 2,000 BP.
Yeah, it does appear that Matthew has opted out of playing the Absolute Ice Shield and has just taken the life.
More resources is always helpful, and it could be a shame if that is not an Absolute Ice Shield and it is something else. But that is something that we are yet to see.
If it is not an Absolute Ice Shield, I'm fairly certain we'll see him put that one down in his burst after this turn.
Yes. We do see the Calidris, the card I will never be able to pronounce, come down again, which does have that luster effect, so any magic cards used will come back to hand. If it is a level 2, which I do see 3 cores down there, if I'm not mistaken, so it does have that luster effect live when it attacks.
I believe we do see a magic card or 2 in Matthew's hand, so he should be going in for that.
Yeah, we do see the first attack with that Aravantha, which just looks like a big flying elephant up close. And it does have an effect which will, if destroyed, which Steven's not letting him get the effect off because he doesn't want another attack to be present on board.
Yeah, and that Erevath can be quite a great card once you're able to kill it, but you know, obviously if your opponent is able to stop it from dying, then you're just not going to get that effect off.
We do see both players pass the flash step in the attacking phase, and we are going on to the blocking flash step to see if anything will get played. We will see a Drowsy Fumes come down, which will reduce DP by 2,000. So it looks both Caldris and the Grizzly Bear are on 3,000 DP at the moment.
I think we see Steven sort of contemplating what he wants to do here.
We will see him use that Charge Draws flash effect for the cost of 2 to give his Grizzly Bear plus 2,000 power. 2,000 BP to let it survive, unless Matthew has another magic card in his hand, which will allow him to reduce it, which I do see one.
It does appear it's the same card. It might actually reduce it again. But does Matthew want to get rid of those cores? Does he want to save it for that Absolute Ice Shield?
Yes, it would make a lot of sense. But we do see the second Drowsy Fumes come down, which I definitely respect as a play, because we will be able to remove that Grizzly Bear from play at the end of this battle. So it will be back down to 3,000. So it looks like they will collide, and they will both be placed in their owners' respective trashes.
Was quite the turn, and I believe Matthew will still get those 2 cards back to hand.
Yeah, I think they're having a quick discussion about it.
It doesn't look like he does.
Looks like they go to the discard. It does, yes. So it does say when the battle ends. So I believe the ruling would be along the lines of, because the Caladrius is not in play when the battle ends, they do not come back to hand.
Yeah, that could be the case.
So it could be why Matthew was a bit hesitant to use the second one, because he knew that he would be losing those cards, and he only has 2 in hand. So we're definitely in this situation where both players are in a bit of a rough spot, and we do see Steven draw his 4th absolute Ice Shield of the game, which means he can just survive another turn.
It does look like, though, Steven has a 6 cost in hand with the Siegworm Nova, so he might opt to actually discard the Ice Shield and play that 6 cost to bring himself back up to 5.
Yeah, definitely. If he has both of those pieces in hand, I think he does have enough resources to get them both down, as their costs are reduced relatively significantly with the other spirits that we have on the field at the moment. However, no, that was the Nebula Dragon, I believe, that we saw discarded. One of the other 6 costs that you can see.
I'm sure you could just feel the energy from Steven as soon as he draws that absolute Ice Shield, and I'm sure Matthew's face would have dropped as soon as that burst card was set down.
Definitely, and we do see the Dino going back up to the 4 cores, and we will be, I'm assuming, seeing an attack with it. And there's not much point keeping up defensively for it. We are putting some pressure on with those extra cores onto the Nexuses, which I believe just gives Steven here a couple extra power. So yes, the Dino does get an extra 2,000 power, 1 from each of the Nexuses that we have there during the attack step.
And we are going to see that absolute Ice Shield come back. And next turn, I'm fairly certain we're going to see Matthew put down another absolute Ice Shield.
Yeah, so it's definitely a card which can turn the tides of the game a little bit here. And we are going down to only less than 10 minutes remaining before overtime.
Considering we finished the first game within 20 minutes, this game going this long is quite amazing.
Yeah, it's definitely, it shows how skill intensive this game can be when you have 2 essential control decks. Well, no, not control decks, they're aggro decks come at each other, but are able to control each other so heavily. And we do see Matthew put a lot of cards down, and little does he know that that's another absolute Ice Shield in Steven's burst area there. And if Steven just draws, all he has to do is draw a 6-drop. He's had the 8-drop in hand for a while. All he has to do is draw a 6-drop, and he essentially gets to see 3 cards at the start of every turn, which is crazy.
Exactly.
So sooner or later, he will be able to draw it. And we are attacking with this same spirit we've been attacking for a while.
And here we see another absolute Ice Shield. I believe that's Steven's 3rd absolute Ice Shields.
Actually his 4th, because he played 1 without turn stopping and 2 to stop the turn.
That would be quite amazing if he has seen all 4 absolute Ice Shield. But then again, he is drawing an additional card, 2 additional cards every turn. So.
Definitely. So we do see the Big Bang Energy, I think it's called, in hand, which will let him play his 8-drop for a total cost of 2, which is crazy if he does decide to keep it. I can't see what the last card in his hand is, but that card on the right does let him draw cards.
I don't believe he's seen a 6 cost as of yet, so it is going to be quite rough seeing his last turn, as there is no more absolute Ice Shields and he's on 2 life.
Yeah, we do see that charge draw in his hand though, so he will be able to draw another 2 cards, but he's just thinking which ones to keep. And the card we are looking for is the Imperial Thunder Dragon Sungwon, which will allow Steven to essentially go back up to 5.
Yeah, so it looks like we're going, big announcing that we've got 8 minutes till overtime. And our overtime procedures is going to be that 5 minutes. I'm not too sure if we go into turns, so like turn 0.
I think we have the turns, but then unlike some of the other Bandai games that we have seen, there can be ties. But since we are on game 2, it's very unlikely that we'll see a tie unless Steven wins it within time.
Definitely. We can definitely, as we've seen this game, that anything can happen. You never know. Steven could just go and win the game outright right here.
We do just see Steven come in with the draw to try find it. He does draw a 6-drop. I think he's just drawn 2 of the wrong 6-drops. They look like the Nebula Dragon, our Mondas to me, which he's going to play for 3 each. But when he does play them, he gets to select one of his opponent's spirits with 3,000 or fewer DP or one of the Nexuses and destroys them.
Okay.
So it looks like we're going to be able to clear board a little bit here.
So there we go. As we were saying, you can just do anything in the game. It's anything can happen, Max.
Anything can happen. And it looks like there could be another one in his hand if he wants to go for it again, or he can attack using that confront effect on his Nebula Dragon if he puts 5 cores on it to force Matthew to block with that penguin that we see there.
Such an amazing game this game has been. I'm a big fan of red and yellow, and seeing them both in the first table, first stream on round 1, I'm very happy with this.
Definitely, yeah. Steven's thinking what to play. We do see the second Nebula Dragon come down, and it looks like we're probably going to see, or we will see, the air elephant, I'm going to call it, be destroyed, which means Matthew gets to play a 2-cost yellow spirit from his discard pile.
Could that have been a bit of a misplay from Steven, do you think?
Look, they're talking something over, but it could be a little bit of a misplay. But Steven, I think, has had a lot of practice in this, so he could just be thinking something that we're not at this point in time. But only time will tell, and time is running out, so it's going to have to tell pretty quickly.
And considering Matthew does have that absolute ice shield again in his burst, the game isn't ending this turn. We're going to another turn. We may go to an extra turn after that. You just can't tell.
Definitely, and we do see one of those spirits come out. An important thing to note is if there wasn't a core, which I think there always would be a core when you destroy a spirit, but you do have to place that core on the spirit when you summon it. Okay, we do see 3 cores on the Nebula Dragon, on each of the Nebula Dragons, which will make them, I believe, level 2. And I don't think the dragons have too much extra effect on level 2. However, they are just tankier, so it's harder to remove them. So at this point, Matthew's going to have to get through 5 attacks to win this game this turn, because he has to get through the 3 blockers plus the 2 life that Steven has.
But don't forget, we do have that absolute ice shield as well, and it does appear that Steven has just ended turn.
Yeah, so he's not going for the attack. Because then again, if one of Steven's cards had Confront, I would have really liked to see him go for the attack, because that's essentially another removal he gets there. However, he would have to have put 5 cores on one of the Nebula Dragons. So personally, I would have liked to see Steven try to put 2 of those cores from one of the Nebula Dragons on the other ones and go for a little bit of removal. However, we don't get to see that today.
And we do see Matthew play that penguin, I believe it is, and he gets the 2 cost. So he is going to have quite a few attacks this turn. We'll just see how this turn pans out.
Yeah, we do have 4 attacks on the field at the moment for Steven, as well as, is that 3 cores we see on his Nexus, on his Blessed Cathedral?
The 3 cores, what does that do with the Blessed Cathedral, Max?
So that will allow Matthew to draw a card when one of his yellow spirits is destroyed in either player's attack step. So we could see here one of the yellow spirits being destroyed, and then Steven could draw into a magic card that could save him the game. But there's only one way we'll find out, and that is watching this intensely close game.
Originally, I was curious as to why Steven didn't swing with his Dino, because I believe it draws a card, if I'm not mistaken.
You need to have 3 cores on it.
I see.
Yes. So we're just talking over some of the cards that we have on play at the moment to see how they interact with each other, because we do have a lot of different effects lining up. For example, I believe that is 2 free stills on the board, which during either player's attack step, you get to draw a card when one of your cards is destroyed. So he gets to draw 3 cards here when that one spirit is destroyed, which is a lot of advantage.
It's incredible just how many cards you can draw. And again, he's got the absolute ice shield. As we keep saying, he will go into next turn, so he'll have much more to swing with.
It looks like we are seeing a pass from Matthew, so he just wants to play the advantage.
And I believe Stephen did draw the 6 costs that can get him to 5
He did.
alive.
He did draw the 6 cost, and as you can see, he is playing so excitedly. You just see his arms are that little bit jittery, and he's discarded one of the 8 costs because he has another one of the 8 costs in his hand.
This has been a brilliant game so far. He's going to play that 6 cost. He's going to go back to 5. And I can just imagine the smirk on his face right now.
Yep, he has been searching all game for that 6 cost. I'm going to quickly find out if it has any on-play effects for you. It does not. It only has on-attack effects. But we are going to play the big 8 cost here.
There we go. So it's a Supernova Dragon Seagworm Nova, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. It is an extremely long name, but it is an extremely powerful card. Unfortunately, it's not the Saga rare. However, we will see him sack off the other Seagworm Nova to fulfill its Ascend cost. So the Ascend cost is, as an additional summoning cost, you must place all cores from one of your spirits that cost 6 or more into your reserve, which is what we see here. And then the when summon effect, when this spirit performs Ascend using a spirit with Sangworm in its name, you may place 1 red, so your soul core, into the void. If you do, place cores from the void into your life until you have 5. So he's gone back up to 5 life. It's just like when you started a brand new game, except he has 5 spirits on the field, 2 nexuses, and his opponent's only on 2 life.
That's been an incredible turn. I cannot believe what has just happened.
We're just rearranging the cores. We will need to find a core to put on that Grizzly to keep it alive, but we didn't have enough cores for the Dino, so we are just deciding what to do here, and we are in overtime for these players, and they only have 5 minutes to resolve the rest of this game.
So essentially, Stephen has to win this game to be able to give himself a draw with Matthew. Otherwise, due to Matthew's previous win, he will win the game.
Yeah, and we do see the Supernova Dragon. We'll just wait for this announcement. Yep. So we will see the on-attacking effect when it is a level 2 or higher. It gets to destroy any number of your opponent's spirits, which total BP adds up to 10,000 or fewer. So it looks like we'll be able just to clear the entire board, and it looks like they're just talking over how effects resolve here.
And what brilliant gameplay we've seen. And just from round 1 as well, I do know that Stephen has been practicing this game for such a long time now, and Matthew has been going hard at it the last couple of weeks as well. So seeing this sort of high-level gameplay on round 1 is just amazing to me.
Yeah, definitely. And they are just talking about how these effects resolve, and I believe it's how many cards Matthew will draw here, because all of his cards let you draw cards when others are destroyed. And so he's drawn the 3 cards, and I believe all those spirits are going to be placed into the drop. And we will finish resolving this attack, which I believe is just going to be show Absolute Ice Shield, pay for the Absolute Ice Shield, and then it's going to be Matthew's turn. So we're taking the life, we're revealing the Absolute Ice Shield, and then we're going to pay for the Absolute Ice Shield, and it will go back over to Matthew's turn.
I believe we saw a little bit of a chuckle from Stephen when he revealed the Absolute Ice Shield, but yep. What an incredible turn.
Yep, it does pass back to Matthew, and he does have a lot of cards in hand, but it's pretty hard to think he can go through all 5 life with the 4 blockers up. If he sees an Absolute Ice Shield, he may be able to survive through time. But
I believe he had another one in hand. Oh no, that was the other one he set. Yes, he doesn't have any more.
Yeah.
Oh, that will be rough.
But look at how many cores they have. Like, this is how far this game has gone. That's too many cores for me to count. And if you look at it, I did see the God Behemoth in Matthew's hand, so he will be able to throw out a surprising amount of attacks here. But he does look like he's just going to be paying. He'll be paying
2 for it.
2 for it, because it does have an effect where you can count the 2 costs in your trash pile for the cost reduction, which means we have 2 God Behemoths, which are both, well, they both have 1 core in them, so the 2 6k attackers, we won't get the when attack effects because we do not have enough cores on them to make them level 2.
The fact he's played 2 God Behemoths for 4 cores is amazing.
And we do have the Freestyle, and we do have another level 2. So this is presenting 4 attacks on field, and 2 of which cannot be blocked if one of the Behemoths becomes a level 2, which only needs 2 cores. We just need 1 more core on the Behemoth for it to be essentially unblockable.
And here we see the power that Matthew's deck does have. You know, he may have cleared his board, but he's drawn those 3 cards, and that has given him a board of 5 cards on field.
Yep.
He can just leave these cards up, block every attack, and then that's it. Time's over. Matthew wins.
Yeah, we will see. However, the 8 costs that Steven has on play will be on field will be able to destroy up to 10,000 worth cost, up to 10,000 battle powers.
Wow.
On attack. So Matthew can't just stall here, but we are running close to out of time. So Steven's going to have a very fast turn when it happens.
Yes, it is rough when you're going into time, especially when it's a rough situation and you got to think you're sort of dwindling the clock down, but you're also thinking, man, how am I going to win this?
Yeah, it looks like we are just going to essentially sack off that Grizzly. It's not needed for Steven's plan here, and we have less than a minute for this game to resolve.
Just reading his card here.
So it's all your 3 costs.
With 50 seconds left, this is going to be a super close game.
Indeed, and because we saw those 3 cores on the God Beast Behemoth, it does have its when attacking effect that it's his level 2, his spirits that cost 2, my apologies, cannot be blocked by opponent spirits that are level 2 or higher. So it does, however, Steven's all spirits are all level 1 because they only have 1 core on them, and we're just going to see a flurry of attacks come through.
Oh man, yeah, here we go.
That's another one. And we will, I'm assuming, see the freestyle attack, or we will see the pass. If there's a Royal Potion in Matthew's hands, he could go for game here.
Definitely could, but it looks like he's just passing turn, I believe. With 5 seconds left, though, it does appear that Matthew's just won this game 1, and that's time in the round. So we believe Matthew will win this game.
Yep.
When the judges come up, I see the judge over there just having a look. Matthew is on the 2 life, and they're just discussing, end of round procedures.
Yep.
But what an incredible game, though. We've just seen Red go from in a completely dominated position to coming back with 5 cards, 5 life, 4 cards on field, and an absolutely amazing game.
Yep.
Man, I don't like that, dude.
There we go. That's the handshake.
I get it.
We had a very good game.
Brilliant game. I'm actually very pleased with that game and what has it's just happened there with Red. I didn't know Red could do that much, Max.
Yeah, it's that thing. Matthew was looking the entire game for that 6-drop dragon just to be able to go back to 5, develop that 8 cost, because you cannot play the 8 cost without having this a 6 cost on field first. So it's just you need to find one of those 6 costs to then be able to improve your game state, improve your board, and be able to start destroying all your opponent's blockers with that when attacking effect.
And it's just a crazy thing. He drew so many cards to find it. I'm curious to know how many he actually has got in his deck, because if he didn't see it the entire game until that last turn, he must either be really, really unlucky or not run more than 2.
Yeah, I think I'd assume we'll see at least 4 of the 6 costs that he ended up playing, which put him back to 5 life, and 3 or 4 of the other Supernova Dragon that we saw him play, or Nebula Dragon that we saw him play down a couple times there.
Yeah.
So game 1 went to Matt, game 2.
Cool. Looks like we are wrapping up the end of this round, and we will catch you guys shortly with round 2.
Beautiful. Thanks, Max.
Oh yeah, it'll be back on the